Our weather is about to change a ton over the next few days, as a lot of the Arctic air that is currently sitting over the United States is about to move out. That's going to make way for some very warm weather across much of the country by the end of the week, and this could bring the return of some severe weather and even more snowfall in some areas. So in today's forecast, we're going to break down exactly what you need to know about the weather that'll be impacting the United States over the next 7 days, and we'll begin with what's happening across the country today, and beginning with the East Coast. That is where a large low pressure system currently resides across the Northeast. We have a ton of Arctic air that is currently coming out of Canada, and that is especially impacting areas like Florida, which is a state where we saw approximately 40 different record-breaking low temperatures this morning, and this includes areas like Tallahassee that got down near 25 degrees, and even in Huntsville, Alabama, we got down to 20 degrees this morning. But to put it simply, this is an extremely rare weather event. In Central Florida especially, that is an area that the temperatures dropped into the mid-30s this morning, which we've not seen that in the month of November since 1981. And to go on top of that, this is the second earliest time that we've ever seen a 35-degree temperature reading or lower in the Orlando area since 1910. So this has been a very crazy weather event that has unfolded across the Southeast. And if you're in Florida, congratulations, you've lived through a very historic cold blast in the month of November. And then back over in the northern plains in the Midwest, there's quite a bit of cloud cover this morning, but no indications right now of any snow or rain really coming out of this. However, as we go later into this week, there is a very large storm that is coming. Now, over the next few days, we are going to see a huge weather pattern change, and it's going to change absolutely everything about what we've seen so far in the month of November. So let's talk more about it, beginning with our jet stream. This is what it looks like right now. We obviously have a very large dip in the jet stream along the East Coast with a very intense low pressure system that has been bringing all sorts of Arctic air out of Canada. Luckily, as we go into Wednesday, a lot of that Arctic air is going to begin to move off the shore. But since our jet stream is still going to be angled out of the northwest, this will continue to allow at least for some below average temperatures to continue essentially all along the East Coast through at least Thursday or Friday. So even though we're not going to be talking about Arctic air, it will still be cold enough for a winter jacket for many of you. And then by Thursday and Friday, our jet stream is going to begin to lift further off to the north. The only cold air left is mostly going to be in New England. And then we are going to start to see a ridge build across the Gulf Coast. And what that's going to help to do is essentially build a lot of heat and drier air across the Great Plains, the Midwest, and across the Southeast. So above average temperatures are going to make a big return, with temperatures well above 20 to even 30 degrees above average in parts of the Great Plains. So talk about a major weather pattern flip that is coming by the very end of this week. And then on Thursday and Friday, we will have a major storm impacting the West Coast with high winds, snow, and rain. And then bits and pieces of this storm system are going to break off and move over the Rocky Mountains. I expect two different storm systems on Saturday and Sunday to impact areas along and just east of the Rockies. One of which will be in the southwest, and then another one back up in Canada. This one in Canada will be mostly a rain event for the northern United States and New England, but there could be a little bit of snowfall on the far northern side of that low pressure system. And then this right here could bring some severe weather to the southern plains, the Ohio Valley, and the southeast during the later half of the weekend and early next week. And we're going to talk more about that here in just a moment. And there is a lot more to talk about in this forecast, but before we do that, we need to talk about the sponsor of today's video. Your health matters just as much as the weather we track. And I'll admit it, I used to hold off doctor visits all the time because I didn't know where to start, who to trust, or how long I'd be stuck on hold. Then I had one of those wake-up moments where I realized something was off, and I realized I couldn't keep waiting to figure it out later. I remember sitting there for days telling myself that nothing was wrong, even though the pain in my leg would not go away. Deep down, I knew something wasn't right, but I didn't want to deal with the hassle of finding the right doctor. But that is exactly why today's forecast is sponsored by ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a free website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors, choose the right one for your needs, and click to instantly book an appointment. And ZocDoc isn't just for one type of care. They have more than 100,000 providers across nearly every specialty, from primary care to dental health, eye care to urgent care to mental health, and more. It's the one-stop shop for all of your healthcare needs. There's no need to call doctor's offices and wait on hold either. ZocDoc lets you do everything online. When you've found the doctor that you need, you can find their actual appointment openings. Plus, ZocDoc helps you get appointments fast, typically within 24 to 72 hours of booking, and you can even score same-day appointments. Stop waiting, stop guessing, and get the care that you need. Go to ZocDoc.com/maxvelocity to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor. That's ZocDoc.com/maxvelocity to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. Thank you so much to ZocDoc for sponsoring today's video, and let's get back to the forecast. And one of the biggest things that's going to change over the next few days are the temperatures. This is what it looks like right now. We have well below average temperatures draping the entire east coast of the United States, and warmer air is building all across the desert Southwest, across the Rockies, and the Great Plains. By Wednesday and Thursday, below average temperatures will still be lingering across the east coast and also in the Great Lakes, but generally speaking, this is going to be nowhere near as cold as what we've been dealing with for the last few days. And then back over in the Great Plains and along the west coast, that heat is going to continue, and it's only going to get worse by Friday and Saturday. And this is mainly due to the fact that our jet stream is going to be lifted so far off to the north by Friday that we are going to see the potential for 20 to 30 degrees above average for temperatures from Texas all the way back through southern Canada, including Saskatchewan. So get ready for that. And then by Saturday and Sunday, all that heat is going to move across the Midwest and the Great Lakes. So if you've seen any accumulative snowfall here over the last few days, a lot of it is going to melt by Friday and Saturday. And then by the tail end of the weekend and early next week, we'll have a bit more of a mixed bag of temperatures across much of the country. Some areas below average like the West Coast and also the Northeast, but above average temperatures continuing in the Northern Plains and the Southeast. So over the next few days, there will be improvement in the temperature department. Today is obviously a pretty cold day for most of the East Coast, many areas in the 20s and 30s this morning. By this afternoon, 70s and 80s across the Great Plains, but the East Coast dealing with 30s, 40s, and 50s for high temperatures. Again, a lot of areas like Florida will actually have record-breaking low maximum temperatures today, including Orlando, that's only forecasted to reach 54 degrees. That is very rare, once again, for November. And then Wednesday morning, we're much better. We're talking about 30s across much of the Midwest and the Southeast, and then obviously the temperatures in the Southern Plains will stay much warmer in the 50s, and then by the afternoon, warmer weather will continue. And then Thursday, Friday will really start to warm back up again. We're going to have some 70s and 80s reaching Nebraska and as well as South Dakota by Friday of this week, and then by Saturday and Sunday, we'll even have some 70s and 60s back over in areas like Chicago, southern Wisconsin, and northwestern Indiana. These are the same exact areas that saw upwards of 1 to 2 feet of snow here over the last few days. Now let's talk more about what's going to be upcoming in terms of rain, snow, and severe weather, beginning with what's happening today. We still have a little bit of snow out there across the Northeast, including areas like New York, Pennsylvania, but the majority of the snowfall that was coming from Lake Michigan, which was mostly all lake effect snow, that is now winding down. So not really much more snow is in the forecast in those areas, but there will be some on and off lake effect snow today across Lake Erie and as well as Lake Ontario. That'll really wind down though tonight, and then by tomorrow morning, yes, there will be some snow in the Northeast, but this is going to be very light, and it's not necessarily coming from the lakes. Instead, it is from a very weak low pressure system that'll be located just to the northeast of Michigan. By Wednesday afternoon and evening, a little bit of light snow will continue across the Northeast, and then Thursday is when we're expecting a bunch of rain and high winds to impact the West Coast, including California, Oregon, and Washington, and snow will be falling in the higher elevations. I don't think this will be a big snowfall event, but I do think a lot of rain, including the threat for flooding, and also the winds will be the biggest concerns Thursday and Friday. On Saturday, that is when we're going to have two different low pressure systems that'll be impacting the United States. The first one is actually going to be in Canada. This will be far north there of North Dakota, but I do think there's a possibility that as we go into Sunday and Monday, this storm system could actually drop down to the southeast, and that may bring the potential for some winter weather to the northeast and also a lot of rain and perhaps some high winds. This is a very uncertain scenario though as of right now, but if this were to happen, we would have freezing rain, snow, and also normal rain all on the table for the northeast on Sunday and Monday. Our other storm system will come in more during the later half of Sunday into early Monday. This is going to be primarily back over in the Rockies and also the desert Southwest on Sunday, with some snow and rain being the main concerns. But Monday into Tuesday is when this ejects over the Rockies, and there may be a low-end threat for severe weather Sunday night back over in areas like the central and southern plains. I don't see this being that big of a day though as of right now, but by Monday and Tuesday is when there might be a slightly more organized risk of severe weather. On Monday, we'll be watching for isolated to scattered severe weather up and down the Mississippi Valley from southern Illinois back into East Texas. I think the main concerns will be wind and hail, maybe a couple tornadoes as well. And then Tuesday, this storm system moves into the southeast where an isolated wind and hail risk may continue from North Carolina back into Alabama and Georgia. And then by Wednesday and Thursday of next week, that's when things begin to get a lot more uncertain. But I do think we'll continue to have a pretty active weather pattern all the way up through at least Thanksgiving. So get ready for some active weather here for the next few weeks as winter approaches. And as always, thank you all so much for watching today's forecast. If you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below. And also a huge shout out to ZocDoc for sponsoring today's video. Make sure to check them out. They're the top link in the description below. Once again, we cannot do everything that we do on this channel without our amazing sponsors, so I really appreciate you guys supporting them as well. And just a heads up, our next winter forecast will release tomorrow on this channel. And to end the video, I want to give you a sneak little preview to the winter forecast coming up. This winter could be one of the coldest winters that we've seen in years. After years of milder winters driven by El Nino, the setup heading into the winter of 2025 looks much different, with a large pattern change that'll lead to a much more severe winter.